What the hell that was about? But anyway, we desktop streaming, man. So we gonna get this party started. Um, I'm looking at something from Linus Tech Tips right quick. He putting this on. So let's look at what he got going on. Oh shit. All right, now y'all probably can hear me. All right.
Of Microsoft Windows. No, it was a total commercial flop. But instead of giving up on Steam machines, Valve doubled down, working with game developers on Linux native ports of their games and with open source developers on the Proton compatibility layer that makes their Steam Deck handheld out-of-the-box compatible with thousands of Steam games, even ones that only ever shipped on Windows. The Steam Deck is believed to have sold millions of units at this point, and no wonder given its great balance of solid gaming and outstanding affordability. But its mobile form factor has given it certain limitations and left gamers hungry for something more substantial. And well, here it is. I'm calling it the Lunchbox. 1, because it's substantial, like lunch. 2, because it's cube-shaped, like a box. And 3, because I think this thing is going to eat Xbox's lunch. Okay, that last one was a bit of a reach. But not as far as I'm reaching for this segue to our sponsor.
Hold up, RoveLab is having a sale, 60% off. They're easy to move, and they're easy to use, and super comfy. But I got a little friend new now, a guy has gotta celebrate somehow. Hear that? That's the sound of the holidays coming. Because if you spend over $100 at lttstore.com, you'll get a 1 in 10 chance of winning something big. You can win a pair of Sennheiser HD 550 headphones. Or if you're really lucky, you may be selected to win a brand new ROG Xbox Ally X. This is fun. But hurry, you only have until November 26th. Shop now at lttstore.com.
In what has become typical Valve fashion, they've been atypically open about the new Steam machine, giving us direct access to the engineering folks who worked on these devices. The only thing I didn't have today was time, so we're going to get through this as fast as we can. At the heart of the Steam machine is a 6-core AMD Zen 4-based CPU that turbos up to 4.8 GHz with 16 gigs of RAM and an 8 gig GPU that they compared to a 7600 XT-ish. But they were also quick to point out that it might not be apples to apples thanks to their custom software stack and power tuning. Basically, the goal was that pretty much anything on Steam should run at 4K 60 FPS if you're willing to turn down the details and use a little bit of FSR upscaling. And we saw that on display with Cyberpunk running in the demo room at these settings. Valve says to expect about 6 times the performance of the Steam Deck. Now, I was a little surprised to not see an SoC with shared memory, but apparently the decision to go for discrete CPU and GPU came down to balancing cost, power, size, and performance, and also they just didn't feel like they needed to. And I guess Valve was right, because they nailed this thing. Compared to a more traditional ITX small form factor machine like the OG Steam machine reference design, you can see that it's a lot smaller. More on par with a highly integrated design like something like the Framework Desktop. Investment disclosure. Like the Framework Desktop, Valve allows customization of the front panel using these magnetic plates, and they're going to provide the CAD files so you can put whatever your heart desires on here. They even had a machine in the demo room with an e-ink display that was showing system vitals. Pretty darn cool. But unlike the Framework, it has a programmable RGB strip in the front that could be used to personalize your style or maybe show a progress bar while you switch your TV input and wait for your game to be downloaded. The sky's kind of the limit. The front of the device has a power button, micro SD slot, 2 USB 3 5 gigabit per second ports. Then the rest of the I/O is in the back, where you'll find 2 USB 2 Type A ports, a USB-C 10 gigabit per second port, no display port on there, that is worth noting, gigabit Ethernet, power in for the integrated power supply. Good gravy, this thing is compact, as well as an HDMI 2.0 and DisplayPort 1.4 port. It is worth noting that HDMI 2.0 port, they have tested it at HDMI 2.1 speeds, but there are a couple of features that are not implemented, so they can't call it HDMI 2.1. Also at the back, we have a large 120mm cooling fan that draws air from both the intake on the bottom that comes up through the power supply, as well as the large heatsink on the front. We're gonna crack this thing fully open in a sec, but first I wanna talk about the Steam controller. No, not that Steam controller, the new one, with the exact same name. Before you ask, yes, I made my case to Valve that this is unnecessarily confusing. No, they're not going to change it. The good news is Valve learned a lot from the first Steam controller, and this appears to be their most complete offering ever. To be fair, the original was really cool. I mean, it made non-controller games finally playable from the couch, thanks to their innovative haptic touchpad. They also unlocked novel input schemes with gesture control or like swiping with momentum. But they also turned off a lot of folks due to their deficiency of traditional joysticks. Well, that's solved now. The Steam controller is everything that is great about the controller on the Steam Deck, but usable when your Steam Deck is in docked mode, or with your Steam machine, or with any other PC, investment disclosure. On the surface, it offers up a conventional ABXY button layout with a PlayStation-style symmetric joystick design that will work seamlessly out of the box with basically any game. The trackpads have been repositioned to better accommodate the arm's natural position while holding a smaller device compared to the wider Steam Deck, and all of the usual Valve buttons are included. A Steam button for opening the menu, their quick access button for bringing up the SteamOS overlay, 4 rear programmable buttons, the face buttons are satisfying with a nice amount of resistance, and the D-pad has been tuned from the Steam Deck for better feel. It feels okay to me, but I only got a couple minutes with it before Valve blew my mind. The joysticks are next-generation TMR or tunneling magneto-resistant joysticks, boasting superior accuracy and durability even compared to Hall effect joysticks. And the controller has been designed from the ground up for a superior gyroscopic aiming or mousing experience with capacitive thumbsticks and even capacitive grips, so you can configure your gyro to enable or disable depending on whether you put your thumb on the stick or even by simply loosening your grip, say to recenter and then reactivate gyroscopic aiming. They had a great demo with Balatro showing how you can use the game's built-in controller compatibility like a pleb, or, hear me out, trackpads with the right for movement and the left one split down the middle for left and right click. Or, hear me out again, gyro mouse using the face buttons for clicks. And if you don't care about gyro aiming, these capacitive inputs are all remappable as well, opening up a whole world of possibilities. Let's go even deeper. In addition to the haptic, texture-like feedback that you know and love from Valve's previous touchpads, the Steam controller has been upgraded with large rumble motors for better immersion and a large battery that they claim should be good for 35 hours in the most demanding applications, and even better if you don't need quite as much rumble. But I haven't even talked about the best part. If you've ever gamed over Bluetooth, you know that it can be inconsistent at best. Valve's solution? The puck. Every Steam controller comes with a wireless dongle that clips magnetically to the Steam controller using a couple of nice, strong alignment magnets. And it uses a proprietary 2.4 GHz wireless interface that Valve claims is good for about 8 milliseconds end-to-end latency and offers up superior resiliency when you're using multiple controllers. It allows 4 controllers per puck, so that's not as good as the Xbox dongle, which can do 8, but Valve has tested up to 4 pucks on a single system for a maximum of 16 players, meaning that you're probably going to run out of seats on your couch before you run out of controller compatibility. The last chef kiss on top is an IR emitter that's cozied up beside the power LED to help you find your controller when you're in VR. I love it. Now let's get back to the Steam machine who got naked while we were busy. Oh, you. While Valve's goal was to build something that is zero hassle, grab and game for the non-tinkerers, they really were laser focused on a console-like experience with quick suspend and resume and modern standby so that your games are already updated when you sit down to play. They also fully acknowledge that there are folks out there, guilty, who are tinkerers, and they've come up with an ingenious design for this thing that allows it to cater to both audiences. In advance, No, you're not going to be swapping out the BGA soldered processors. But what you can do is upgrade the storage with next to no hassle to a 2230 or larger 2280 sized M.2 drive. And while we couldn't go that deep today, Valve also confirmed that the memory uses standard SODIMM slots. Finally, while Valve hasn't actually told iFixit that this product is coming yet, they did say that they're hoping to continue their partnership that they've had on the Steam Deck, making replacement parts available for end users. Awesome. Since we're in here, by the way, there are some really cool details that I'd love to highlight. The power supply, for one thing, is fully integrated to the point where it's actually part of the chassis, and the cooling solution pulls air directly through it, which avoids any need for it to have its own fan. The aforementioned Delta cooling fan is actually slightly thicker than the standard 25mm for extra static pressure, and it includes antenna mounts that are integrated into it, along with I/O mounts. Cool, right? Oh, this is actually a great look at the 4 antennas. So this is the back of the device, where you have your 2 antennas for Wi-Fi 6E. Then if we flip it around to the front, we've got 1 antenna for Bluetooth peripherals and another one that is dedicated to your Steam controller or controllers. So that puck that's included with your controller is actually extra, and you could chuck it on another PC or next to your couch for charging. A major question mark, though, is of course price. Valve wasn't able to give any specific numbers due to rapidly evolving market conditions, but they will obviously have it nailed down when the Steam Machine launches in Q1 2026 alongside the new Steam controller. They did give me one hint though. They said that while they expect it to be very competitively priced with a PC, that it will be priced like a PC rather than like a console, with games subsidizing the upfront hardware purchase. They wouldn't say why, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's partially to avoid stepping on the margin opportunities of their potential partners for Steam games and Steam software, but also because they recognize that the Steam Machine is a full-fledged PC, capable of being used as a full-fledged PC. There's no guarantee then that, say, a corporate purchase of 10,000 of these things would result in a single game sale. So they really do need to protect the sustainability of their hardware business. Another major question mark is, where the heck is standalone SteamOS for custom PC builders? Well, we aren't going to get a formal SteamOS release for BYO hardware configurations anytime soon, but Valve has expanded the list of supported third-party devices, and they have supported installing the Steam Deck recovery image on AMD CPU and GPU systems for some time, and recently updated it to support their latest Zen 5 and RDNA 4 architecture processors. So nothing prevents you from building your own Steam machine and installing the software for free, though you will miss out on some things. HDMI CEC control, for instance, required Valve to build a custom motherboard in order to have your computer turn on alongside your AV receiver. And to get that on a BYO PC would require some serious cooperation between hardware makers that I don't know if we should hold our breath for. But the bulk of the experience should work pretty much out of the box. We may even get a release that supports a broader range of hardware in the future. But the vibe I'm picking up on around here is that it really depends on better support for Intel and especially NVIDIA GPUs. I'm also picking up this vibe to our sponsor.
What up? Hey man, I got a new couch and I think I need some help. Bro, you know I got some stuff to do today. Come on, it won't take long. Okay. He doesn't know it's an M1 sofa from Rove Lab, babe. Moved it and set it up by myself. Now I'm watching Grab a Rave. I really don't wanna lift a couch right now, but he's been there for me, and I'm gonna find a way to help him somehow. Man, you made it, but it's already set up. Man, you're the greatest. How did you lift it by yourself? It's made of strong, yet comfortable foam, and it's easy to move anywhere in your home. And so why did you need my help? Want you to help me celebrate because...
Ladies and gentlemen, it is controversial video time once again, because today we're pretty much building the ultimate price-to-performance multiplayer gaming PC. And straight off the bat, you've probably noticed we have an RTX 5060 in the box.
PC-centric, why are you doing this?
Well, actually for some pretty good reasons, because as we know, the controversy with the RTX 5060, and for very good reason, is the fact that Nvidia did not really put enough VRAM in this card. It's only got 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which means if you want to do things like ray tracing, play at higher resolutions, and especially AAA titles, ultra settings, this is not going to be a very future-proof card. However, as we've been testing over the last couple of months, in terms of value for money, specifically when it comes to multiplayer games, actually the 5060 is going to be a really good pick if you're not really that fussed about single-player games and you're quite happy to upgrade your graphics card in a few years' time. But there's going to be a lot of pros and a lot of cons with this, so throughout this video we're going to explain everything. So if you're on the market for a more budget-friendly but still very high-performance gaming PC, this will be the video for you. And I almost completely forgot to say, because I was too busy holding that hot potato, we do also have a brand new CPU on our desk as well. This is the Ryzen 5 7500 X3D. That's right, there is a new X3D chip aimed at more budget-friendly gaming. Is this going to be good? Or is it going to be a waste of silicon? Find out everything you need to know right after a short word from this video's sponsor.
The Aorus Master 16 has arrived, bringing both jaw-dropping visuals and super slick frame rates. This stunning machine packs a 16x10 Quad HD OLED display for an unreal level of detail running up to 240Hz. Not only that, but the Master 16 uses the latest Nvidia 50 series of GPUs for DLSS 4 and ray reconstruction, in addition to the second generation of Intel Core Ultra Mobile CPUs for both performance and power efficiency. Learn more about this beastly machine today with a link below.
So yeah, I think it's fair to say that this is always going to be a little bit of a controversial topic, because ultimately, if you're spending a lot more than you would on a rig like this, it's very easy to kind of sit there and say, well, no one should be buying a graphics card with 8 gigabytes of VRAM, it's a waste of time, Nvidia should be ashamed of themselves, seriously, just go and buy something else. But the problem is that with that advice, that kind of only really leaves you with the B570, but almost certainly the Arc B580, which, don't get me wrong, is an absolutely brilliant graphics card, but the performance of that, especially in multiplayer games, is actually less than you're going to get with the 5060. So it's great that you have more VRAM, but actually for most people you could argue that having higher frame rates in the games that they actually play is going to be more useful than VRAM that some people might not really be able to take full advantage of, especially bear in mind, as I say, the 5060 is more powerful than the B580, which is why there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's just about kind of watching these videos, and I highly suggest you watch this video on the top right corner of your screen once again that goes through all of the different performance levels between the B580, the 5050 and the 5060, because purely based on the fact that we can only work with what we have on the table. If this had 12 gigabytes of VRAM, it would be so much easier to recommend. But ultimately, it really just does come down to the games that you play and whether you're happy to compromise yourself with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Because let's be clear, you will be compromising yourself, but depending on the games you play, it might not be that much of a compromise. I hope that clears things up. It's also worth noting as well that if you wanted to step up to a card that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, so the next one really would recommend would be the 9060 XT. That's a great all-round option, but you're looking at an extra 75 pounds or so at the time of filming compared to a 5060, which to some people might be absolutely fine, but for others, if you're really restricted on budget and want to maximize the performance for the money, that's why we say the 5060 is going to be worth considering, as long as you're kind of weighing up the pros and the cons. But regardless of the graphics card that you're going to go for, obviously everyone's going to need a motherboard, and you can go for Intel or you can go for AMD. Here we're going for AMD. This is a B850M motherboard, so we're going to go for an AM5 compatible CPU. Obviously this is a new one. You might need a BIOS update, but we'll walk you through that throughout this video. This one is from MSI. It's their Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. But if you haven't already noticed, one of the ways that we're actually able to save ourselves a little bit of money on a gaming PC is to go for a micro ATX motherboard and then a micro ATX case. That's what we're doing here. I personally really like that. My personal rig is actually micro ATX for gaming, because I'm not adding in a load of cards and things, and I don't need the PC to be big. I actively want it to be a little bit smaller. And I quite like this design actually, because it's going to work in both a black case or a white one. Looking forward actually to seeing how this looks. This does have a white PCB, but I always think and always say it looks a little bit medical, this range from MSI. Like this looks like the hospital logo. It does smell a little bit clinical as well. Ah, but yes, now ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our newest component, right? Well, kind of. I mean, this is technically a new release from AMD. It's fantastic value for money, even at the RRP, around about £240 or so, and I imagine over time that will come down. But this is actually using old technology. That's why it's the Ryzen 5 7500X3D. So it's not a 9500X3D, so it won't have the same performance per core as something like a 9600X. But obviously with that accelerated 3D V-cache in games that can properly take advantage of it, you're going to have really, really good performance for the money, especially in multiplayer titles, because actually in a rig like this, you're not actually usually limited by the CPU, more often the graphics card. But having said that, if you're specifically playing multiplayer games at lower settings, 1080p, maybe even 1440p with upscaling, then you may well find that you are going to be limited by the CPU, and obviously this is exactly where this can come in handy. So let's grab our chip, hold it gently, and then just lay it over those pins once you've opened up that socket. Give it a slight wiggle just to make sure that it is in safe and securely. Push that back down and then just catch it with, well, the catch I suppose and the lever, and then you can save this for later on. Our next piece of the puzzle is going to be our memory, our RAM, and unfortunately, again, the prices on these in the last few months has gone up drastically. We're talking like 50% more in places, which is nuts. So you're kind of looking at like a good price is 130, 140 pounds on kits of memory, but you may well be looking at 150 for 32 gigabytes of DDR5, which is a massive shame. Hopefully things will change and they come down, but my understanding is that it's kind of AI, people building servers that just need lots of memory and they're just kind of buying it all up. But it's very easy to install once you've got your hands on it. You just need to push it down into position. This is from T-Force, and it's this lovely white kitlet that does perfectly match our theme, and it's running at 6000 megahertz CL30. But if you aren't able to get that at a reasonable price, C36 should be fine for this sort of rig, especially as there's a load of cache actually on the CPU itself. Once you have installed your RAM though, the time has come to move on to your storage, and obviously the more storage you have the better, but you have to pay for it. So most people, a terabyte should be absolutely fine. We don't recommend 500 gig drives anymore because they really are a compromise, especially once you start downloading larger games like Warzone, like Battlefield 6, and if your internet connection isn't super fast, you'd just be kind of constantly downloading and reinstalling games all the time, which would be a little bit of a nightmare. But this is one that I actually bought last week. This is from Crucial. This is the P310, and this does look like the best value drive overall, really. It's PCI Generation 4, but it's a lot faster than the old P3 or the P3 Plus. But this should be toolless, so we just give it a push. Do make sure that you remove this little peel though, just to make sure the heatsink actually does its job. And then you can just find where it slots in and then just give it a little push. And then you've got a catch here that you just need to move and then push back so that it's held in place. And then obviously grab your heatsink and then just push that back into position. Oh, and now that that is installed, we have a brand new component, again, that I bought specifically for this rig, because you guys are always telling me to check them out. So I'm trusting you on this. Let's try this. This is the Peerless Assassin 120 SE White ARGB. The budget has not been spent on the box, but I think that's a good thing. This is an all-white cooler, and Thermalright pretty much are all about maximum value for money. So this is the same sort of price really as the one you can get from Arctic, but it looks to me as if you get a little bit more thin. I've got to say, I do like all of the white heat pipes. They've really put a lot of attention to detail on here. You've got the silver as well there. I mean, this definitely doesn't look like a cheap cooler whatsoever, but I was able to buy this for roughly £35 or so. And it does also come with 2 white fans as well, all in ARGB. The first step is to remove both parts of the AM5 mounting hardware. Then we can open up our accessories box. And I've got to say, it's quite nice that everything is very well labelled. Just plop these red spaces over the holes, grab the AMD mounts and place these on top, but with a curve facing inwards.
This is what it looks like when you
So I'm sure that by now you've probably caught wind of this new game that's coming out called Where Winds Meet. And if you're wondering what the game is all about and what kind of game it is, and maybe you've been hearing some... So I'm sure that by now you've probably caught wind of this new game that's coming out called Where Winds Meet. And if you're wondering what the game is all about and what kind of game it is, and maybe you've been hearing some conflicting reports as to what kind of game it is, this video will bring you up to speed. It's not a guide video by any means. It is an overview of the game, what you can expect out of the game. That's objective from my side. This video is not sponsored. The first thing I want to clear up right off the rip, this is not an MMORPG. The way I've been describing it is I've been calling it an online RPG, and some people have been calling it an MMO light. But it's not an MMORPG in the same way that you would call something like Black Desert. The way I've been describing it to people is I've been saying a different kind of role that it plays. One of the weapons, so for example, even though there is a fan weapon, one of the weapon choices, there is a range DPS fan, and then there's also a healing fan, and they're two completely different weapons that have different skills tied to them. You can mix and match them, and you can equip two at the same time, and in combat you will be switching between them. So there is a trinity system in the game, so there are tanks, healers, and DPS. You can go a full healer build, or you can go a hybrid build if you want. You can mix and match any weapon with any weapon. Obviously, there's going to be more meta weapon combinations. You're not locked into your choices. You can mix and match, and you can test things out early. My advice is to test things out as early as possible, because much like Blue Protocol, for example, once you get up there in levels and once you progress your character a lot further, around like level 30, level 40, that's when upgrading your weapon slots is going to start becoming a little bit more expensive. So test these things out as early as possible before you kind of make your decision. But even if you make your decision early and then want to reroll later, there is a way to reset your progress. It refunds a percentage of your progress back, but nothing really is going to break your account if you decide to switch your role or switch your dedication to a certain weapon. Aside from the skills that are tied to the weapon itself, you also have these things called mystical arts, which are additional skills that you can unlock through various means in the game. There's a million different ways to unlock them depending on which one you're looking for, and the game will tell you how to do that. The combat itself, to me personally, doesn't feel floaty. It feels pretty impactful. A lot of people tend to compare this to a Souls-like. I wouldn't say so personally. It does have a typical parry, block, dodge mechanic that has a stamina bar, and the enemy, like the bosses that you fight, also has a stamina bar that can be broken, things like that. But aside from that, you do have skills that you use in combat, and you switch weapons in combat, so it is a lot faster. And if I had to compare it to a Soulsborne, if I absolutely had to, I would compare it more to Sekiro, because your parrying matters a lot more. But I wouldn't call this Souls-like. I would compare it more to something like a Black Myth Wukong type combat. When you start up the game for the first time, you can pick your difficulty, because by default you are going to be alone in the world. There is an online co-op mode as well, where you'll be able to see other players running around and kind of interacting with bosses and stuff like that. But the world itself and your interactions with the actual bosses will depend on the difficulty that you pick. The easiest difficulty will slow down time when there's an opportunity for parrying. It is quite literally very much so a story mode where you won't worry much about the difficulty, and the higher difficulties are obviously a lot harder. So now let's move on to the customization. The customization in Where Winds Meet is genuinely one of the most in-depth that I've ever encountered. You can play a male or female character and customize their face with incredible detail. You can upload a picture of yourself or of your character from another game, and the game will attempt to make your character look like the person in the screenshot. Due to this being a wuxia game, hair color is limited during character creation, pretty much to default black, but every outfit features a different hairstyle as a cosmetic slot in the game, so whatever hair you pick on your character, don't expect to spend much time rocking that hairstyle, as it will change when you unlock different cosmetics, paid or free. Don't worry though, despite the game having a heavily wuxia style, you are able to customize your character's eye color and skin color to your heart's content, so it's only the hair color that the devs were adamant about keeping fairly homogeneous. Of course, there's a player-driven lookbook, just like in Black Desert, so you can try out presets from other people, and it does let you make a couple of adjustments as well if you want to tweak it before locking it in. Don't worry though, pretty early in the game, you are given an item for free that lets you change the appearance of your character, so if you end up not liking something on your character, you will be able to change it later on, pretty early in the game, to be honest, once for free with this item, and more times in the future if you want to, but that will be a paid item from the shop, obviously. Monetization. The vast majority of the game's monetization is cosmetic, with 2 freemium features. The game is free to play, so of course it's going to have those. The first one is a standard freemium subscription for 30 days that gives you currency every time you log in, every day you log in. By now, every free-to-play game on the planet seems to come out with one of these freemiums. The other one is the Battle Pass with a free and premium version. After asking around a few Western players that played on China, the Battle Pass gives pretty light rewards like cosmetics, not just the featured skin, but a few other cosmetics like different hairstyles, makeup, things like that, some currency for in-game vendors, consumables, some materials for upgrading your gear early, which is pretty easily obtainable from exploration, so nothing super major. Personally, I'd say the biggest value of the premium Battle Pass is the limited FOMO skin that's featured at the end once you fulfill a certain level. To my knowledge, they don't run those skins back, so if you're not a fan of the skin, you won't be missing too much by not unlocking the premium row of the battle pass. Aside from that, the rest of the monetization is through cosmetics. There are 2 gacha banners that feature either a limited skin or a mount. The skins don't have any stats on them. It's just a very fancy FOMO skin. But aside from that, the shop is full of skins that you can just buy outright for a flat price. A lot of them are on discount, and most of them are dyeable as well. Aside from skins, you can also buy a myriad of different mounts, hairstyles, makeup options, weapon skins, emotes, and skill animations. So for certain skills in the game, we'll have a skin that will change their visual effect. So for example, a slash skill on one of the swords might get a fiery or a lightning effect, or like a dragon visual with it. So it's nothing that changes the efficacy of the skill itself, it just changes the animation to look cooler. There are also various poses and props you can buy to decorate your character profile when somebody inspects you, icons, things like that. So pretty much aside from the freemium and the battle pass, it's all fancy, crazy.
I'm gone. I gotta go to work. Y'all be safe.